it's a great event, and what I like to start out with, you'll read the bio, and it has like my history, and even though I'm sort of considered a moderately successful business executive, you need to know a little bit more about me to give context to what I'm saying here. So I moved to Houston in June of 1976, right out of college, to help my dad with a restaurant. The best thing that ever happened to him and me is he went broke really fast. And so I didn't have a job. I didn't know anybody in Houston, Texas. I had an accounting degree with a 2.56 grade point. And in that time, we had the ability to, in Houston in 1976, if you could fog a mirror, you could get a job, right? We know it was the best 5 years of my business career ever because it was just booming. Economic development was everywhere. And when we're going to talk, I'm talking about economic development. We're at an economic development forum, an industry forum about economic development. And economic development, sometimes people just don't get what it really is. It really is about boots on the ground. Can you get a job if you have the right training, right? That's what everything is about when you talk about economic development. And so when I came to Houston, economic development, there were people who had done lots of work on the channel, lots of work in business to create an incredible economic development position for me to go get a job as an accountant with pretty lousy grades. And so I've only had that job, and that job's lasted for 49 years, if you can imagine that. And what I learned, though, was I learned that if you do have opportunity, and there's an environment of opportunity, meaning you have good economic development activities, you have good infrastructure development, and that creates the ability for companies to thrive, which means that they have to grow, and for them to grow, they have to hire people. And if you do that, and the region does that, guess what? It produces incredible things, and it creates value for everybody. Ultimately, to have high quality of life in our region, you have to have a job. You got to pay the rent. You got to pay the car payment. You got to do those things. And so what we're about here, and what the port is about economic development. So for my journey, I was part of that economic development. I got the job. I learned that if you could solve problems and you create value for your enterprise, they paid you more. They promoted you. You created value for them, right? Just like every single day we're trying to create value for the port. We're trying to create value for our companies. And when you do that and you have the backdrop of great economic development, really good things happen to people. They can improve the quality of life for those folks. Chad mentioned HISD, and it's been a really interesting journey for the last 2 years. And I'm the president of the board of managers at HISD. Now, some of you might not like that, but because change is hard. When you ask people to change, the first thing is, why do I have to change? I'm used to doing what I'm doing. And guess what? In order to evolve and to do well long term, we all have to change. You have to be open to change, and if you're not open to change, you're going to be stuck in the past, and stuck in the past doesn't work. And so we have some HISD kids here today. I shouldn't call them kids, they're young adults, and they're back here at the table, and I'm going to introduce them to you. If I can find it here. Here we go. I want you all to stand up. Isabel, Diego, Esther, Fabiola, Elizabeth, Irvin, and Fabio. Stand up over here. And I know we have a bunch of other students, so all the other students stand up, please, as well. We have tons of students here. Thank you. And our HISD students are in our Barbara Jordan continuing, our CTE program, as we call it, and they're all welding students. And they're going to be welders that we need in our businesses for sure. And so one of the things, when I walked in, I met them, and I hadn't met them until today. One of the folks asked me, well, what kind of fun do you have? What do you enjoy about your business? And one of what I said was, I love meeting people. I love creating value. I love taking care of people in their homes, because that's what Camden does, right? We own apartments, and we take care of people in their homes. And I didn't get the chance to tell them that they expected to see this CEO, this chairman of the port, president of the board of managers in a coat and tie and ready to go and talk corporate speak. And the reason I wear this shirt, and whenever I address port folks, I wear a port maintenance shirt. Do you know our port maintenance, on average, this is an average base salary, they make $70,000 to $80,000 a year. That doesn't include bonuses, that doesn't include overtime. When you put bonuses and overtime in, a lot of our people are making 6 figures or more. Maintenance people, really? Wow, so we need welders, we need maintenance people. And so I wear this shirt to show respect and admiration for those folks that take care of our businesses every day that don't necessarily have college educations, and that you don't need a college education to do really well, as long as you have a technical skill and you understand that you solve problems. And one of the questions that I was asked this morning by one of the students was, so when you hire somebody, what do you look for in an employee? I said, I look for somebody who's curious about the world and about what they're doing, and I look for someone who can solve problems, because we have problems every single day, and we need to create that momentum to solve problems. If you're really curious about the world and your job, and you're really curious about how to do better, you're going to learn to solve problems, because that's what we have every day, are problems, and those problems need solutions. And when you are the solution king or queen, guess what? They promote you. They keep asking you to solve bigger and bigger and more complicated problems. And what that means is that you move up in the ranks, you make more money, and money is not the object. Money is the requirement to have a great quality of life and have options in the future, right? And so it's really important, I think, when we think about economic development in that way. So that's my story. I came from pretty much nothing, and then I started getting involved in public work. And Chad mentioned the Super Bowl, and that was a lot of fun, even though there was one person that was incredibly happy to get it over, and that was me. Because once you do something like that, it's like, let's get it done and then move on. And so I got involved in the port 6-7 years ago, and it was a really interesting time. A lot of tension in the world, because we're having complicated traffic issues and logistic issues of getting ships through, and whether you had one-way traffic, and it was a really interesting situation. So I'm going to now pivot to the port and talk a little bit about a history of the port, and this will be a good lesson for our students here. So this is a really great saying. It's no channel, no port, no cargo, no commerce, no jobs. We know that waterborne commerce, whether it be energy or consumer products, is the cheapest way to move, most efficient way to move goods around the world. And it's been like that pretty much forever. And it's going to continue to be that. So without the channel, we don't have our city. There's another saying that people use, which is the city that built the port and the port that built the region. And there's a lot of folks that say it's Mayor Holcomb or someone else. I used GPT chat to figure out who the first person, and this will tell you something about AI you have to be careful with. And it said it was Roger Gunther that said that, who is a previous CEO of the port. And I'd like to thank our port folks for being here today. Port Houston folks, please stand up and be recognized. Our team works really hard. Okay, so let's talk about the foundation of the port, just to give you a little history lesson. If you can imagine this, Project 1 started in 1853. So people have been using the port for a long, long time. And before that, there were lots of pirates. There's great pirate stories about Blackbeard and Galveston that I won't go into today. In 1909, they came up with what they called the Houston Plan. And the Houston Plan was a really interesting plan. So some business leaders decided that Houston needed to be the port rather than Galveston, because Galveston had been decimated by the hurricane in 1900, and so they needed an inland port. And so they went to Congress, got Congress to make Houston a port city, and then some business people got together and said, we need to have a deep water port. At the time, it wasn't deep water, and so they went to Washington, D.C. and said, they called it the Houston Plan. It was a plan put together by bankers and people in Houston, and it was Jesse Jones who kind of came up with it and then funded it. They went to the government and said, we'll pay 50% of the cost of deepening and widening the channel to Houston, and the federal government would pay 50%. By the way, it was like a total of $5 million to do that in 1909. So they agreed to do it, ended up doing it, built the channel. The channel opened in 1914. and it was a deep water channel in 1914. And it was 25 feet deep, and that was deep water for those days. In 1911, the Harris County Houston Ship Channel Navigation District was created, and that is the Port Authority as it exists today. And so the leaders of the government at the time thought, you know, we need to consolidate the stewardship of the port and create the Port Authority to do that, because I've got to tell you, and we know from the challenges we had in 2018 and 19 with one-way and two-way traffic, that the channel is a lifeline and really important. And when people get clogged up, they have problems, and they create a lot of issues. And so the ability to get the group together and to create one entity that was the steward of the port long term was a really smart thing that happened in 1911, and we've been continuing that, you know, since then. When you think about other things at the port has been the first in a lot of things. We created the Houston Ship Channel Security District in 2009. Our fire and our police departments in the port serve to support all the channel and all the various fire departments and police departments in and around the channel. In 2020, we with industry partner help, and I see Vincent DeCosmo over here, who is one of the major players with Targa, who helped us. And I know there's some enterprise folks in here. I love driving on Beltway 8 and seeing the American oil, American jobs are out on I-10 by Sealy. That's awesome. So our friends in the industry helped us get Project 11 approved and the first start happening. And we'll talk about Project 11 here in a minute, but the good news on Project 11 is the Bay Reach part of the channel is completed, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So when you think about the channel, okay, and this is for my HISD friends over there. So the channel itself creates 1.5 million jobs in Texas, right? I mean, that's just a lot of jobs. It's 19% of the Texas GDP. When you think about nationwide, when you expand it, it's 3.3 million jobs and nearly $1 trillion. So it is really a critical and important part of the Houston economy or the Houston region. Without this channel, we would not be the region that we are. There's no question about that. When you think about the port in terms of scale, and everybody wants to measure things, right? If you can't measure something, you can't control it, so we measure everything. And so we're the number1 waterborne port, we're the #1 export state, we're the #1 export in petroleum and petroleum products. We're the #1 in resin exports. 60% of all the resin it gets exported in the U.S. Comes out of Houston. #1 container in the Gulf. 73% of all of our containers in the whole Gulf region come through Houston. And the thing that's important about that is that if a container ship is coming into the Gulf, they'll stop at other ports too. But if it wasn't for Houston, they wouldn't even go to those ports. And so Houston creates value for all the other ports because of the size and the scale of our port. When you think about taking deep water transits, our Houston pilots are amazing. They bring these ships in and out all the time, every single day. And if you combine the number of ships that go in and out of Long Beach, LA, Savannah, and New York City, and combine them, it's not as many as come through the Houston Ship Channel on an annual basis. That's how big a deal it is. So when you think about the tonnage growth, we all think about numbers. So our growth in tonnage, overall tonnage, which means how much weight of products you're bringing in and out, has been going up consistently for a long time. We had a little dip during the COVID period because of supply chain issues, but it continues to grow, and it grows at a really great rate. Over 70% of the transit that goes on in the channel is petroleum based. So it's either crude oil or where we changed the molecules around and made better products and higher level products from a barrel of oil. And so it's an oil-based shipping business. There's no question about that, and that continues to grow. Our exports, the blue line is exports, and you see those exports continue to be really, really strong, and that's what makes Texas and the Houston region the #1 export region and state in the country. When you think about when I think about the Port Authority itself, we are the non-federal sponsor, and they call it the advocate or strategic leader of the Houston Ship Channel. So we are an autonomous subdivision of the state of Texas. Like, what the hell does that mean, right? All it means is that the state of Texas has given the Port Authority the authority to be the steward of the channel and partner with the federal government on everything that the channel, everything we need to do in the channel. And so we need to expand the channel. Port Authority's department does that. So it's an entity that is run and controlled by the local communities, and the board is appointed by the various local communities. We manage 8 terminals. Now think about 8 terminals. Not very many terminals. There's over 200 private terminals that a lot of people here at this conference work for and work at. And so we manage 8. And those 8 they're really great terminals, and the 2 terminals that are really busy are all are busy, but the ones that are really busy are Barbers Cut and Bayport. We'll talk about those in a minute. So those are our 8 channels. You can see they're listed across, but when you go back to the beginning of the ship channel, there was nothing there. And what happened over the time is after oil was discovered and we figured out how to create more value by refining it and exporting it and changing the nature of energy, all this built up over these years. And when you think about the buildup, that's called economic development. Somebody had to build it. Somebody had to think about it, building it. Somebody they have to operate it. There's just all kinds of really good things that happen with that. When you think about our Port Houston terminals, you can see that top line has been growing. We have 53 million tons that have gone through. Our business has grown dramatically. I'm going to show you that here in a minute. And most of that business is container business. Most products today, everything you have on your table probably came in a container from the port. I had a friend of mine the other day who called me and he goes, I know you're connected with the port, and I've had this tile that was supposed to come in from Morocco that's been sitting at the port for like 3 months because there's a digit wrong on the bill of lading. Can you figure that out? And I'm like, well, no, I can't. but I know somebody who can. And so everything we get is in a container pretty much. Your cell phones or whatever, and it all flows through Port Houston. When you think about growth, right? We always think about growth because if you're not growing, you're probably not doing well. And we all want to grow. We have to grow our incomes. We have to grow our educational base. We have to grow our workforce. And you have to grow. And so we're growing much faster than other ports. If you look at this schedule shows the top 10 ports in America, and it can show that we're growing twice as fast as the second largest port, which means that our economy is growing, our region is growing, and that puts a lot of pressure on infrastructure investments and workforce development and all the things that we know are important to make sure that we can continue to move cargo and products from the importers and exporters to the consumers. And so we have to be really efficient to do that, and we have to continue to invest in our businesses to make sure that we can keep that growth up. When you think about that growth, and you use there's another growth schedule here in a minute. So this just shows our balance. So a container can either be going in or going out, right? When it comes in, it's an import. When it goes out, it's an export. And we're pretty balanced, which is good. So we don't have we're not just a one-trick pony. If exports go down, we're not in trouble because we still have a bunch of imports that need to come in. So that's a really good thing for the port, is to be balanced like this. And you look at that compound annual growth rate of 7.8% for the last 10 years. When you think about that, the rule of 72, anybody know what that is? HISD kids know what the rule of 72 is? You take your growth rate, divide it into 72, and that's how many years it takes you to double your business again. And so at 7.8 divided into 72 is like 9 years, rounding, right? So that means in 9 years we're going to double. Oh, what do you need to do to double? You need to invest in the future. You need to make sure that you're ready for that additional growth. You have to finance it. You have to figure out how to do it. And we have a budget at the port of $1.9 billion of landside investments over the next 5 years. And we have to be in front of the growth, not behind the growth. If you're behind the growth, that means you can't get the products to market. And if you're putting a product out there and you have a product and it's stuck somewhere, you can't sell it. And we know that that's a problem. So we're investing in lots of different stuff. You think about future expansion. So if we double, or when we double, not if, in the next 8, 9 years, we're at capacity for Bayport and Barbers Cut, which means if it takes a long time to get stuff like this done, and very expensive, so you have to figure it out. So we're working on Terminal 3 right now. And we will have to make big investments. We're working with a lot of the communities and trying to figure out where the best site is for that and make sure that everything works with it. There's lots of transportation and logistics issues that we have to work on. But Terminal 3 is on the drawing boards, and we're working on it right now. Talk about, you can't have a port discussion without talking about Project 11. So Project 11 was, when I got at the port in 2019, Project 11 was a hope. The way federal projects work is usually, and this is a sad thing about government red tape, and I'm not going to be political today at all, but if we're going to be competitive, we have to be able to execute projects quicker and at a lower cost. If it takes a long time to build something, guess what? It costs more money than if you can build it in a short period of time. We all know inflation drives cost up. And so typical project, like Project 11, is a 15 to 20 year plus project. We started it at the port in 2014 under the leadership of Janice Longoria, and Roger Gunther was the CEO at the time. And that study took about 5.5 years and $25 million plus or minus, something like that. And the interesting thing is, if you think about it, that is like, why did it take so long? The ship channel is 530 feet wide, 52 miles long, and maybe it's not as wide in the upper parts of it. And we're going to increase the size of it, or the width of it, by 170 feet to 700 feet. Not going to move it, not going to change it, just going to move the wall 170 feet. Take you 5 or 6 years and $25 million to figure that out? What? And that didn't even design it. And so the federal projects take forever because of just federal red tape, unfortunately. And so we partnered with industry, and Chad talked about how we went to Washington, D.C. in 2020. We were lots of meetings with Vincent and others in the industry, putting the partnership together to make this deal work. And then we decided that we would do some really interesting things. We would just break the bureaucratic model, which is wait for the government, wait for the government, wait for the government to give us money. We would do our new Houston plan. And our new Houston plan was going to be, we were going to fund it with port funds and partner with the industries to get the project built, instead of in 10 years or 15 years, in 5 years. And we got our permission to start in 2020, and we finished the Bay Reach part of the channel, which is the most important part of the channel from a pure ingress-egress perspective. And we've increased daylight hours on both ends by 2 hours. And we know that time is money. And if you have a ship sitting idling in the channel or upstream of the bay, it's costing you money every second that ship sits there and doesn't go forward. The other thing it does, it idles, and it creates environmental issues and stuff. So we finished this project in 5 years because industry support, and we also improved the environmental attainment. Now that ships go through faster, the NOx is down 3 to 7%. We created over 1,200 acres of oyster reefs, bird islands, air quality improvements, and marshes, when you start thinking about that. So not only is it good business, but it's good environmental business as well. Because you can do both, and we need to learn as an industry to do both, and I think industry is doing both today, which is really good. We're very active in our community. We know that we have impacts to the community, so we have a community grant program, we have a park program, we have all kinds of programs to make sure we're reinvesting in the communities and doing good work in the communities that are impacted by the port. We have a new program that's getting ready to be launched. It's called Anchored in Action, and what we're trying to do is bring all 200 terminal owners together and say, you know, we all impact the port. We all impact the port in lots of different ways, and we need to have a concerted effort to reinvest in the communities in and around the port. So we had a meeting at the Greater Houston Partnership. Port Houston's been working on it for the last year, plus or minus. We've had an industry meeting. I know there have been a number of industry meetings, but I was at this industry meeting at the Greater Houston Partnership. They hosted it And Jim Teague asked me, he goes, well, Rick, what are you thinking about money-wise? I go, well, we'll start with 50 million, but I'd like to go to 100 million, which would be a program to invest in communities, parks, air quality, health, all kinds of different things. So what we've been doing for the last 6-8 months is had a listening campaign where we went around to all the community folks, and we've talked to 10,000 people, I think, or something like that, maybe more, and trying to get, what are your community priorities? Is it health? Is it education? Is it, and a lot of those things are on the list. And we're going to put together an industry group that can focus on having real impact in the hundreds of millions of dollars of reinvesting back in the communities, because the communities have been really, really good to our industry and to the Port Houston and to the region overall. So I think it's a really exciting program that we are kicking off that you'll hear more about in the future. So with that said, I just want to thank everybody here today. This is the HISD students asked me, I asked one of them, I said, have you ever been to something like this? And she said, no, I haven't. Like, why aren't they all here? And I said, well, here's what people do. They network. They learn. So in order for you to really do well long term, you have to know people. You have to know who to ask to help solve your problems. You have to reinvent yourself. You have to get new information. That's what people do here. So